Hey, and welcome to part 2 of my videos of Colombia. In part 1, I showed you a general view of what I ate daily, but in this video, I give you tips about 10 exceptions that I experienced, since it can be very difficult to know what to eat, for example, if you go to an island for some beach time, or if you're going to be a guest in a house of a Colombian. So, without further ado, in Colombia, if you want to travel anywhere, like to the northern beaches, you'll probably have to take a long bus ride, but I'd say it's very common and safe these days. So the bus makes a couple of stops for you to eat or drink an agua panela or hot chocolate to warm up, as normally the buses were freezing inside, so yeah, definitely bring a blanket or your sweater with you. And usually food-wise it was beans and rice what we got. If you want to be sure if the beans are vegan, you should ask if they used any bones in the making of the broth. Number 2. I got the chance to visit a wonderful non-touristy island in the north of Colombia called Mucura, and another beach right in the border of Colombia and Panama. Eating in places with no access for cars means the food supply is very limited. A lot of fish and barely any fresh veggies. But not to worry, as always you're surrounded by smoothies and the usual rice and patacon. If you're lucky, they have coconut rice, which is so good. Some bigger parts have veggie restaurants and you might find a beautiful burger there as well. Though I would definitely pack some fresh veggies to go before leaving the mainland, even if it's just for the first night, as there's not always a place to store them unless you're staying in a hotel. Which I would never suggest actually, because there's nothing that beats waking up to this side in the morning. Number 3. Trekking. So speaking of beautiful places, if you find yourself trekking in the woods and your cooking machine doesn't work and everything is so wet, there's no way of making a fire, no worries. We were inventive and ended up making stuff from what we had, which was mostly cucumbers, so we made cucumber sandwiches to energize us for the day of hiking ahead. Best was with peanut butter, so thanks to the guy that brought a jar of peanut butter for a hike. The next day, however, we had a proper wooden stove and we made some good old rice and lentils and some hot agua panela to keep us warm for the night. Number 4. Coffee towns. So, one thing you must do in Colombia is really just to try some of their authentic coffee. That's why I wanted to go to this little coffee town called Finlandia. And also, many people thought I was from there as I introduced myself since I'm from Finland, so I had to go and see what it was about. And it was a worthwhile experience to see your cup of coffee made in front of you with such preciseness. Coffee business is really big in Colombia, so it's a great thing to support the small farm's livelihood by buying a cup of coffee. And what's better than to sip it in these views? Number 5. If you're lucky, you'll get invited to the house of a Colombian. I was always greeted with fruits and salads and it was too adorable. Even if no one else was eating, they could give me a plate of ready-cut mangoes just because they knew I was vegan and therefore I should eat more. One time I got to see how to make empanadas and they were really tasty. The worst was just to wait for them to cool before you could eat them. And Christmas time! I happened to be in Colombia in time for Christmas and New Year's, and then it is unfortunately really a celebration of meat, so I decided to show off some of my vegan cooking skills and make a couple of dishes myself. In honor of my roots, I made my favorite Christmas dish from Finland, a carrot and rice casserole. It's really delicious and sweet, and you eat it as a side dish with the savory things. Other thing I made was pizza, which is not too Christmassy, I know, but I needed a foolproof recipe to please everyone. On top of that, we made some roasted rosemary potatoes, and all the people loved the food, and all they had extra was some roasted chicken. And then we had New Year. So I had just had this spaghetti dish at an Italian restaurant that I had fallen in love with, and I wanted to recreate that for everyone. And you can actually see it from my previous video if ever. So I made a sauce and infused some garlic and olive oil to mix with the pasta, and I'd say it was good, but I definitely should have put a ton more garlic and oil to reach the intense flavors of the restaurant dish. Well, next time then. Number 8. So I was invited to a wedding as well, and I was not too optimistic about the food, but I couldn't just bring my own, you know. But I was surprised. I got to eat some crackers with salsa, and for the main dish I got really nice potatoes and some salad. And of course what helped was the drinks to accompany that, so I was pleased. Number 9. There will be so much to try at the markets, from sweet and salty popcorn to actual corn without the butter, deep-fried arepas with spicy sauce, not my favorite, but a typical drink of beer with lime and salt, some freshly made sugarcane water or juice, or however you would call this deliciousness, and we have cups of fruit, ridiculously good by the way, caramelized coconut shreds, or of course pizza without cheese and with extra veggies. You will not be left hungry. And finally, number 10. Vegetable and fruit markets are full of fresh produce, and it would be a shame really to only eat out. So if you have the chance, make juices and smoothies for breakfast with all the different kinds of fruit, or add some ice and local rum, and you got yourself a cocktail. From the part 1 of my Colombia videos, you can see some delicious examples. Et voilà! I hope you've enjoyed my Colombia series and learned something new as usual. Let me know if you're in Colombia or going there down in the comments. I would love to hear your experiences.